cannot do that. I 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 cannot do that.
Hey guys, Brox here, doing a quick build guide video. I'm going to try something new for the last Epoch community and try to keep this build guide under 10 minutes. I'm probably going to fail, but if you do want to see more of my traditional deep dive long form videos, just leave a comment below and say, hey, we want to see a deep dive on this. Otherwise, I'm going to try to just touch on the highlights so that you guys understand how to make this build guide. So let's jump into it because there's not a ton of time. So this build is primarily based on 2 items that you do need to make the build fully function, but you can start using it as early as when you can summon your manifested armor and make it a functional build. So you can do it as early as I think like level maybe 20, 25 and play it all the way through endgame. We are currently at corruption 253 and I have terrible gear, so easily capable of doing corruption 300 plus. My helmet doesn't even have 4 affixes slots and my weapon isn't exalted, nor is my helmet. So you can see just with, the minimal gear, you can get high corruption levels fairly easily. The 2 items that you will need are Phantom Grip. And what Phantom Grip is giving us is +2 to all minion skills. It's one of the best items for minions in the entire game because you can wear 2 of them, which gives you +4 to all minion skills. But more importantly, what I don't think anyone has discovered yet or actually utilized them for is what they're actually designed for, which is to give your forged weapons a increased effectiveness of your glove statistics. In this case, you can roll it up to 100%. You can wear 2 of those for 200%. And that is why the second item that you really want to take advantage of is Wing Guards, because Wing Guards gives up to 40% melee attack speed. And then you can roll additional 30% melee attack speed on top of that for a total of 70% melee attack speed and at 200% effectiveness for your forged weapons. The gloves alone can get you anywhere from 120 to 140% melee attack speed by themselves, which makes the build absolutely insane. As you saw how fast the swords were attacking, we are going to couple that with melee attack speed on our weapons. We are currently using a Taste of Blood because I did have it slam melee attack speed. However, that is not the optimal roll. You actually want the affix to be a enhanced T6, T7 chance to bleed on hit. And Taste of Blood isn't the most optimal weapon. Undisputed is. You actually want to get the plus 84 to 100 and I think like 7% roll. to be on an undisputed, because undisputed comes with a flat plus 92% chance to bleed on hit on top of it, and innately rolls attack speed, melee attack speed on its own. It is a better option. I have one that rolled increased melee damage, so I just haven't landed the right one yet. I'm trying to slam these two together to see if I can land the chance to bleed on hit. That's something I'm working on currently. But currently I'm using Taste of Blood. They're both very, very good. You know, whatever you find first, you can get Taste of Blood very early and then use it as your primary weapon. It is extremely good because it also has plus 74 chance to bleed on melee hit innately. It just doesn't have the attack speed bonus there as well. And its implicit is a little bit lower because it can only roll about 19%, but that's still plus 100% chance to bleed on hit. Why do we care about chance to bleed on hit? Well, when you have 13 minions, which is manifested armor plus your 12 forged weapons, all of them are applying bleed stacks each time they swing their sword. And since we can stack melee attack speed all the way up to, I think it's like 385% melee attack speed, we can massively stack bleeds on enemies extremely quickly. Plus myself stacking bleeds on the enemy means that our damage ramp is insane. It can blow through bosses, it can blow through mobs or enemies. You know, even on T4 in my gear that I've attempted, I can chew through her fairly quickly. The only problems that, you know, come about is, you know, especially on T4 is things like minions dying to the laser beams. That can be a little bit frustrating because you have to re-summon them with Forge Strike. Casting Forge Strike also increases our melee attack speed because of our passive, which when we use something over 20 mana, it gives another 30% melee attack speed to our minions. And since we keep Forge Strike above that mana cost line, that is also another 30% melee attack speed that gets applied to our swords. They attack incredibly quickly. The other benefit from gear that you want to focus on is minion damage, because it is a flat damage multiplier. It's not just damage for physical attacks. It's not just damage for damage over time. It applies to everything, including bleed damage. That's why we are stacking it. So when you look at our minion damage, we have 362% minion damage and 461% minion damage over time. That is affecting their bleed damage output. And then the manifested armor also has an increased node in its skill tree that gives it additional bleed chance. So there is a ton of stacking going on. The other benefit is manifested armor actually gets to have the amplifications that the Phantom Grip gives, which is it also can increase the stat effectiveness on our gloves to give it insane attack speed by 240%. It's actually better than the Phantom Grips is giving to our forged weapons. And again, it gets additional bleed chance as well as additional damage over time. So our manifested armor is actually doing insane damage each time it hits with bleeds, even more than our forged weapons. It can also amplify stats of other pieces of gear, and where this comes into benefit for the manifested armor's bleed stacks is those stats on the chest piece is we can get an exalted roll of physical penetration with bleed. This one rolled exalted armor. Again, I don't have great gear right now, but if this was exalted physical penetration with bleed, that can go up to 127% increase, and then we would amplify that on manifested armor to give him increased physical penetration with bleed on each time he attacks with bleeds. He actually gets that benefit as well, making him do even more damage. We're going to use transient rest to move around, and for resistances we're going to use a Code of Erase Sentinel for more Sentinel skill improvements and minion damage. Mine rolled really well, so I got extra minion damage on this Code of Erased. And then extra points into manifested armor as well up here, so that we can again take advantage of those multiplicative stat modifiers that he can absorb from our items. And then he also gets the combined total average of our two weapons, just like our forged weapons do. For passives, we're largely stacking resistances and survivability so that we can live. So we're going to grab things like the resistance nodes, the damage reduction nodes. We're going to grab the time with faith because we're going to be using vengeance for even more damage mitigation and survivability. And then we're not using a shield with this build. We're actually going to use a sword so that everybody can get more attack speed much faster, including us, so that we can use vengeance as our survivability tool. We're going to take chance to bleed on hit, a lot of survivability nodes, +2 to forged weapons, and then here's the node for the increased attack speed if we use something over 20 mana, which is going to be our Forge Strike, which is also constantly keeping up our forged weapons. We're going to take Ring of Shields node back here, not for the Ring of Shields effect, but for the 200% armor and health so that our forged weapons can survive at higher corruption, and then less damage over time taken. Over here, resistances, healing effectiveness, and resistances and survivability. Because we're minion based and we're stacking minion damage and we are not the primary, we can actually forego pretty much our entire idle slots for just survivability. We don't need anything here that's going to actually amplify what we're doing. So we just get a lot of just plus health. You can get all the way up to about like 3,000 to 3,500 HP on this build to be super cozy if you had, good rolls on everything here. Blessings also survivability, so void res, lightning res, all res. The bleed on hit effect here does not apply to minions, so it is completely useless. You can just go survivability here. You can get whatever is best for your survivability needs. For me, it was just more resistances so that I can get close to cap on everything. I have to work on my cold, but everything else is pretty much at cap. Then we're going to take increased armor so that we can get our armor increase here for survivability. And then this one node is the one that matters, which is getting a high roll on extra minion damage. You want this to be at 100% if you can get it, because that's more bleed damage for your minions. Here you can see we already have 200 bleed damage, but again, that's all going to get amplified by the statistics that we can keep feeding our minions for minion damage. And this number is still super low. I can get this all the way up, I think, on the build planner that I'll link in the description to about 900+%, if I'm not mistaken. So we're nowhere near the theoretical damage threshold of this build. As we near 300 corruption, we can be doing so much more. Like I said, this is about 300% too low. And the damage here is not even half of the damage multiplicatives that we can get. So a lot of overhead on this build, very powerful, very easy to play, very easy to gear. This is hardcore friendly, it's softcore friendly, it's ease of gearing friendly. You don't need a ton. The wing guards and the phantom grip ring are not hard to get, especially getting 2 of them are not hard. The taste of blood you can get as early as level 13. Transient rest is kind of a pain, but if you're playing COF, just target, unique boots and you'll eventually get one. Beautiful part is they generally roll super well, so any transient rest is going to be a benefit. Code of the Erased Sentinel's the big pain in the butt one because obviously it's random. But if you get a good Code of Erased Sentinel, then obviously you're golden, and then you're fishing for the few items that aren't legendaries, right? So you're fishing for a good belt, a good chest piece, a good helmet, and then a good amulet. I'll put a build planner in the description below with optimal gear so that you guys will know kind of what to target there. And then again, if you want to have a deeper dive of this build, just leave a comment below. Let me know. Yes, I'd like to learn more about why it works and why you're taking everything that you're taking. Otherwise, this is just to get this out there so people know this build exists. It's an off-meta build that, is incredibly fun to play, super easy to, get started, and a great league starter. This will probably be my last Epoch league starter from this point forward, unless they make any changes to the build or they think it's too strong. I will definitely be using this from ongoing as my league starter build going forward. Have a great day, guys.